Hey y'all, today is Tuesday, February 25th, 2020, and this is the 8th episode of the How to Be Magical podcast, where I talk all things magical, spiritual, and fun. And on this week's episode, I want to talk about dating while being spiritually minded. Let's get into it. Hey, before I get into it, I want to make some announcements. I want to thank everyone for listening. It has been a fantastic past couple of weeks since we started with the new year. And some of the numbers right now, we have 8 episodes, including this episode. We have 44 active listeners. We have 371 spins since January 1st. And I just want to thank you guys so much for listening and for sharing and for commenting and for and letting me know that this podcast is something that you're interested in and that it's helping you on your spiritual journey, because this is about community and it's all about helping each other grow and elevate and get where we need to go. Another announcement I want to make is I had a great time this previous weekend bringing in the Pisces new moon on Sunday at the Aboriginal Womb Circle that was hosted by a beautiful young woman named Rosella, and she hosted this event at the Make Manifest location in Brooklyn. It was really nice. It was like a nice vibe, a nice way to bring in the week, and a nice way to bring in this new moon, the last new moon of the astrological season as well. It was just really a really good time, of a beautiful vibe, if I could state that again. And if you guys were following me on social, then you'll see I had posted some clips. I believe Treasure is going to be posting the full set that she performed. It was about a 25-minute set. It was really nice. She did a few songs, call and response, a cappella, very beautiful. So head over to Treasure's page at Treasure Empire on Instagram to find out more information about that. Also follow her other page, Becoming a Botanica. She has a lot of great spiritual meditations and resources there as well. And also be sure to follow the Aboriginal Womb Circle for their next event. I'm not sure when it's going to be, but the tickets for this last event were $25 and you got to bring 2 friends with you. So I feel like that's her pricing scheme and I think it's great. For the next event, I will definitely make a post on the feed so that way you guys could be aware of what's happening, and also follow Make Manifest BK. They are a collective economics store, so pretty much everybody in the store has they do consignment. They have some women that work there. They have a lot of different brands and vendors that are local that have goods there, and it's just a really dope spot, and it's a nice place. Black folks fighting gentrification in Bed-Stuy is always something to be commended, and we gotta support people if we want them to stay open. So, speaking of supporting people, I will be reopening the online store on Sunday, March 15th. I have some new merch in the works. I also have some other vending events and things coming up. I'm just trying to not, lock down some dates before I make official announcements. But officially, the online store will be reopened on the 15th of March. That is a Sunday. We have some bags. I have some journals. I have the waters I'm bringing back. I will not have butters at the time. Butters will probably be closer to spring, summer. And yeah. I got some merch, some more like sweatshirts and things like that. It's gonna be a nice little mix. But the bags are gonna be the real deal, and I'm gonna be posting about those on my page, because if you guys aren't familiar, or if you're outside of New York, starting March 1st in New York, you will not be able to get plastic bags when you go shopping in stores. So there will be no more produce bags. There will be no more grocery bags. So yeah, that's kind of giving you a hint about what kind of bags I'm going to be debuting on the 15th. But I just wanted to let you guys know, and I will be sharing some pictures and things like that on my stories. So please, if you're not following me on Instagram, you can follow me at SoulThingsBK, because I don't post a lot on my feed, but I do post in my stories pretty much every day. So check me out there. And with that being said, also check out Treasure's new single, Open Road. How could I forget that? It premiered on Monday, Carnival Monday. In fact, it is a beautiful Elegua song about how the open road is you, and you are the open road, and you are the one who has the power to walk that road, and only you could take that power. So yeah, it's on all streaming sites, Spotify, Apple Music, Tidal. Use it on your stories on the gram, because you could add it to, if you have the story sticker on your if you have the music sticker on your stories, be sure to use it there, because those count as spins and streams as well. And we got to support people who are out here doing music and spiritual work for the community. Like I said, Treasure makes modern, like, Santo music, pretty much. Like, she makes like contemporary Santo, contemporary Orisha music, spiritual music. It's really beautiful. It's really different. It's really dope. And I want you guys to check her out. So again, that's Treasure Empire. Check her out on Tidal, Spotify, and Apple Music. And that's it for our announcements. So without further ado, let's get into this week's episode. All right, y'all. So it's Nikki of Soul Things Botanica, and this week I want to talk about dating safely. The reason why this topic came up, I've been mulling over this topic for a couple of weeks because I've been reading a lot of articles, very troublesome, very scary articles about domestic violence, and like certain things I'm noticing more on social, in people's personal lives. Like, I'm just noticing certain things, and I think we do live in a very precarious time, because it's like women have more rights than ever. And then in a lot of ways, some of us are still participating in some very unhealthy relationship dynamics that need to be refined and retuned. And I feel like with Mercury's retrograde being in Pisces, I feel like this is really a great time to talk about these emotional things that we find ourselves getting into. And sometimes we're not listening to our higher self. We're not listening to our guides, or we can't hear them because we're so entrenched in drama and discord that we don't even realize that we got help. I can't speak for every country, but I know in American culture, there's a lot of things about American culture that's not healthy. That's not healthy for fostering good relationships. And there's a lot of things that people feed and buy into that are not helping us get closer with one another. They're just forming more divides and causing more rifts in the community. And I think that when it comes to dating, I feel like dating is a social thing. Like, you don't just date in a vacuum, and dating norms vary so much from culture to culture, from they differ between races, they differ between classes, they differ between faiths. So like, there are going to be a lot of things that cause people to not see eye to eye on certain issues, and that's okay, right? I don't think we all should think the same or feel the same or move everybody should move the same way, because that's not realistic and it's not healthy. Like, we need a mixture of things to keep a balance, but at the same time, we also need to reevaluate some of the ways that we are coming into situations probably not at our healthiest and best self. And I think that this is I guess like a tenet or a state of being that a lot of people don't really like to hear, but they don't like to hear you got to love yourself before you can love somebody else. Like, people hate hearing that shit. And I'm gonna be honest, when I was younger, I used to hate it too, because I used to be like, so you mean to tell me I'm not worthy of love as I am? I don't think anybody's really saying that. I mean, some people are saying that. I can't speak for everyone, but I'm saying in terms of myself, I feel like when you start talking about what self-love really is, it's not just baths and good food. It's not just buying yourself all of the things that you want. It's not just letting yourself do and feel whatever you want at any given moment. It's about understanding that if certain behaviors, people, places, things are not progressing or not pushing you to be more loving, pushing you to be more kind, pushing you to be your highest, manifestation of yourself, then it's probably not good for you, and you probably don't need to be getting tangled up in it. But what people don't like to admit is that we are social creatures, right? Humans, we are social creatures. We are social animals. We like to be around other people. We like to be with people who feed us. We like that. But sometimes we mistake just being in company with people for being with people that feed us. Some people just company, they just there. And some people are really nourishing to your soul. You spend time with them, you feel energized, you feel revitalized, you feel recognized, you feel appreciated, right? You need to have those interactions, right? Those interactions are necessary. That's not the same thing as just being around any old body, And I feel like when we talk about dating and relationships and seeking partnerships that are edifying and are loving and do promote wellness within ourselves that can be reflected into that partner, we are talking about things that are going to take some time. If you are a person of substance, you're not going to be able to date any and everybody. You shouldn't. It's literally like looking for a job. Now, if you know what your qualifications are and you know what's on your resume and you know the type of jobs that you're used to doing, there are going to be some jobs that you're too good for. And nobody wants to hear that neither, because we want to especially make black women feel like they're just supposed to just take any and everything that's offered because who else wants you? And I'm like, fuck that mentality, because no. If you know what your qualifications are, if you know what your resume is looking like, and you know your shit is solid, then you can't, entertain job offers that ain't gonna pay you enough for what you know that is worth your time. It's just like a job. You cannot afford to take a job. If you got a master's degree and you're used to making $50,000 and better a year, you can't take a $20,000 a year job unless it's offering you something that's going to be way more than what it says on paper, right? And I think that it's okay to pass up job offers. It's okay to pass up offers for relationships, for dating, for sex, whatever, if you feel it's not going to meet your standards. Because at the end of the day, it's about getting something that's worth a damn, that's worth your while, that leaves you better than when you engage with it, right? Like, these are all of the things that you should be feeling. You should feel energized. If somebody asks you out on a date and it's somebody that you're interested in, you should feel energized by that. You should say, oh, wow, thank you. I would love to go have dinner with you on Thursday at 7:00. I can't wait. Looking forward to it. And you should be able to go out and have a nice dinner and a nice conversation and be treated well and expect to be treated well, right? You shouldn't walk into it and think, oh my God, this person is trying to kill me. But listen, these are the times we're in right now. So I feel like you have to stay safe above all, and you have to trust that you have your intuition and you have your guides. And if you really are working in concert with your intuition and your guides, then you're going to be able to recognize if something is worth your time or not. I feel like sometimes, especially as women, we overthink things. We want to give things the benefit of the doubt. We want to be nice. Like, we're socialized and we're conditioned to be that way. So like, you gotta give yourself a little bit of credit sometimes when you think about some relationship that you've entertained with is probably not for your best. That wasn't really worth you entertaining. Don't be mad at yourself. Don't beat up yourself about it, but be honest with yourself about who you were in that point in time and why you felt that you deserved something that was less than what you deserve. That's really where you got to start with it. Sometimes you got to be like, okay, so what is it? Why do I feel that I deserve this? And keep it real, and whatever comes into your mind, write it down and really look at it and mull it over and be like, okay, you know what? That was that truth at that time. Because as you grow, you're going to require different things. You're going to learn, as you learn and grow and discover things about yourself, you're going to learn more about what it is that you need to keep you going. And listen, I'm 34. When I was 24, I was moving so different than I move now. It's like night and day. I'm not saying I don't like who I was at 24, but the person who I was at 24 is not the person who I am now. And I don't need to be that person. It's okay. It's okay for me to change the way I look at things. It's okay for me to be like, I thought that I needed this thing, but I really don't need this thing. And I feel like the more you learn about yourself, the more you narrow your choices down as to what kind of person is going to be compatible with you and for you, which is good, because especially if you live in a big city like New York, it is hard to figure out, you got so much to pick from. But when you can start with certain things, you start to say, okay, what's your non-negotiables? Like, what's your top 5, must-haves in a relationship in order for you to feel like it's something. And then you'll find over time that those things change, But being honest with yourself about who you are and what you require is how you don't undersell yourself. You can't afford to sell yourself short, So there's a lot of things that I've learned about myself over the years by being in certain relationships with people. And, some of them have been very hard lessons, and like a lot of the times when I tell people, like, yeah, I've been single for a long time or whatever, their first thing is like, well, what did you ask your people for? And I'm like, listen, and I'll be real with y'all. For a long time, I never used to ask them about these things. I used to think it was separate. I used to keep it separate. Like, I ask y'all about stuff that's really serious. I'm not going to come to y'all with no frivolous nonsense. But I wasn't thinking that my relationships aren't frivolous nonsense, right? Like, me wanting to date and partner and have sex and all that stuff is not frivolous nonsense. It's stuff that affects me. It's desires that I have. And if it doesn't get answered or fulfilled in a certain way, it can affect me, right? So it's like me wanting to keep that separation between my folks and my dating life was laughable at first, but that's really how I used to look at it, because I felt like I didn't want to be a person who was constantly going to my table asking about relationship shit when I got personal things, that I need to work on about myself. Like, to me, relationships was, not as important as my personal growth. And even just saying that out loud now is like, it makes a lot of sense with why a lot of my relationships didn't go the way I was expecting them to, because I wasn't putting that energy into them in that way unconsciously. I wasn't even thinking about it. I wasn't taking the relationship serious because I knew that it wasn't something that was more important than my personal growth. So it's like, okay, when you find yourself in those types of, mindsets, you have to be real with yourself and say, okay, you know what? If this relationship is not helping me become a better person, why am I here? And just be real with yourself about that. Like, and how much energy am I really going to dedicate to this? And how much time am I really going to give to this person? And how upset am I going to be if this person decides he wants to start acting a fool? Because how important is it, really? And I think when we start to assign that type of weight to certain relationships, whether that's friends, whether that's family, whether that's romantic, you will have a different relationship with yourself and how you show up and to deal with people. So, okay, one story, ex. A very prominent ex, right? Because we all have exes, but sometimes you have an ex that's like the ex, right? So like this ex was like the ex. And before, when we first started dating, I was really new in my spiritual journey. I had just started like working a candle here and there. I always had dreams. But I never really thought that my dreams were anything spiritual. I just thought it was just me having a very active imagination, not realizing that, my dreams and all of these things they work in concert with me. And keeping me on the straight and narrow. So I went with a friend to a fortune teller. I don't remember. I think we were in Park Slope somewhere. And we went and we got our palms read. And the lady asked me if I was seeing anybody. And I told her, with so much in my heart, because I was like, oh my gosh, so open up this guy already. We was talking for a couple of months. And she looked at my hand. She looked at my face. She was like, girl, he ain't it. I was like, what? She was like, nope. He got some black cloud or some shit over him. But that is not the man for you. That is not your man. And when I say I left that lady upset, I was so sad. Because it was just like, well, why isn't it? And what did I do wrong? And it was like, again, when you get certain answers or when you go and get a reading about certain things, sometimes you get information that you're not prepared for. You will have a little bit of like a denial, I was really deep in denial. Like, how could he not be, I felt, then I was like, it's talking to somebody else. And it wasn't even about that. It's like, it don't matter what he was doing. He just wasn't it. What did I do? I kept dealing with this man for years. Okay. And it was always drama. It was always a stress. It was just so much. It was so much. And we wasn't even having sex at the time. Like, we talked, it was almost well over a year of us just talking before we even had sex. I should have known, not saying I should have known from then, but like, I should have cut my losses a lot sooner, We ended up having sex. It wasn't the most satisfying. It wasn't the worst, but it wasn't like, oh God. It was like, it was anticlimactic, But I felt like our relationship was more than sex, right? I felt like I had more of a connection. And whatever he was feeling, I guess that was his business. And not to say we hated each other or anything like that. It wasn't like that. But he clearly wasn't for me. And there was a reason why he wasn't for me. And it didn't matter whether I knew what the reason was. That was the answer that Spirit had told me. And I wasn't prepared for it. So I put myself through a lot of unnecessary drama for years, heartache and pain, because I didn't want to accept just some hard facts, right? And here's the thing, too. Some of y'all that's more spiritually inclined than I was at that age, if you have access to these divination tools and these practices and you are utilizing this while you're dating, then sometimes you will have to ask them before you go out with somebody, okay, who's this guy? What's he about? And what can I expect here? And let them tell you. And if we really want to believe that our ancestors and our guides are working with us for our highest good, for our well-being, then we got to trust the answers they give us. If they tell you that that guy ain't probably the one, he probably ain't shit, be careful, right? See a 3 of Swords popping up in your shit. You gotta take heed to those things. You can't just go off, well, he looks good on paper and he's really cute and he's so nice to me and I don't understand why, because it ain't about that. How you come to the information, sometimes will fuck your head up a little bit because you want to have something concrete to say, okay, this guy said something mean to me or he didn't treat me right, and that's the reason why I'm cutting him off. It is kind of hard to really go on your own and be like, I had a feeling that this guy ain't the one, so I'm going to just leave it alone. Because a lot of times we don't want to do that. A lot of times we want to keep forging ahead, or at least I do because I'm hard-headed. But it is what it is, right? So many years later of off and on with this man, he now has a child by somebody else, right? Which is like, Destiny was already like, nope, that ain't your man, because that ain't your man. And that's fine. So after he has this child, he wants to work things out. Now he wants us to, we were always friends. We never had no beef like that. I don't really understand why you can't just be with me now. Listen, the third. And in my heart of hearts, it was like, nah, like when I met you, you didn't have no kids. So why do I have to put up with you and a baby now? I'm not doing that. The fuck? I don't have no kids. I'm not doing that. Right? So, but I was on the fence still, right? Because again, stubbornness, hard-headedness, foolishness. I go to sleep. I wake up in dream world. I'm in the bed with this man. His eyes are closed. My eyes are open. And I just ask him, what's your intentions with me? What do you want with me? And he goes, I don't want nothing. I don't have no intentions. Shit, stop asking. Like real nasty. I was like, ooh. So when I wake up, I'm like, well, I guess there's my final answer. Okay, who wants to be a millionaire? Because what else could be said? After all of these years, what else could be said? It is what it is. So he calls. Well, he texts me. And, he's trying to be nice and flirty and shit. And I was just like, listen, I had this dream and I'm good on this. And he was just like, wow, how could you have known something like that? I had a conversation like that with somebody else. How could you have possibly known that? And I was just like, this is just how my people work. I dream, they show me stuff, and I go on that, And he was just like, wow, well, you can't really believe all of that stuff. And, like trying to talk me out of like listening to my own intuition. Because again, it does sound crazy, right? You try to explain your process to people and they be looking at you like, what the fuck, bitch? You telling me what? You telling me you throw some shells in a bag and you throw it on a table and you read that and that tells you something? You mean to tell me you go to sleep and so you see something and you believe that? You mean to tell me you draw some cards and you believe that? You mean to tell me you go... Listen, some of the things that we do don't make sense to a person who's just thinking in facts and material. They're not understanding that you have a connection. They're not understanding that you are a divine being. They're not understanding that you have something that's in you that's connected to something that came before you that's going to let you know how to move. And then you're going to work off that. That's your compass. So trying to explain yourself to certain people don't make no sense. You got to go with what you know. So I went with what I knew. And of course, things, this man is living his life and I'm happy for him. But all of these years that I spent being so in love and so stubborn and so blind to the fact that this man is not for me, it's hard. It hurts. It's a lot. It's hard to take. And that was many years ago. But here I am now, right? Still dating or whatever. Well, not at the moment, but like after that time, I was still dating and I was going out with this guy. I went out with this guy once or twice and I went over his house to mess around. Well, I didn't know it was to mess around, but we went out and then I went back to his place and we laying up watching TV or something like that. And we had already had sex and it was like, it was okay. I don't know. I'm sorry. I had better sex in high school. My adult sex life is kind of dry, but that's neither here nor there. Me and this young man had sex and it was okay. But this wasn't at the same time that I was there, right? Like I had sex with him and then I went back to his place. We went out again. I went back to his place again. But this time I didn't want to have sex. I just wanted to chill. But he kept pushing me. And he kept being pushy about it. And I didn't want to have sex. And I'm laying there and I'm watching TV. And I'm kind of like fighting him off a little bit. Not too crazy, but like just enough. And then in my head, I see a gun. Like, I see it. It's very clear. I see the gun. So I just sit up straight in the bed like, you got a gun in here? And he didn't say nothing. He just got out the bed. He walked straight to the closet and pulls out the same gun that I just seen. I ain't never seen this gun before. He never told me he was a gun owner. We ain't never had this conversation about firearms, none of that shit. So I don't know which one of my folks told me about the gun, but they showed it to me like, girl, he got a gun in here. So what you want to do? You ain't trying to have sex with him and he got a gun in here. What's your plan? I was like, well, then I guess I'm fucking going home because I don't want to. He was like, at that point, he was like, oh, you could spend the night and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh, he shows me the gun. He shows me where the bullets are. He takes it apart. He cleans it a little bit. He has this whole little demonstration with the gun. I was like, oh, wow, that's interesting. Great. And then in the next breath, I was like, and I'm going to be calling a cab to go home. He's like, wow, you can spend the night. I'm like, nah, I got to get up early. I got something to do. Whatever. Take my ass home. Never talked to him again, really. And a couple of years later, I'm back on like Tinder or something, and we swipe like not on Tinder, some other dating app. And he sends me a message like, oh my gosh, I haven't seen you in years. Tell me whatever happened. Why did you never talk to me again? And I had to finally tell him, like, listen, because he wasn't into that type of stuff. He was like, he specifically was like, oh, he's an atheist. He don't believe in God. He don't believe in spirit. He don't believe in none of that shit. He don't believe in none of that. And me being who I am, I didn't really want to go there and have that conversation with him at the time because it was like, I don't really see the point in this. If you tell him, I'm not here to tell you to make you believe what I believe, but I believe what I believe. And that's that, right? So you believe what you believe. I believe what I believe. I told him, I said, listen, you told me you wasn't into all that shit. And before you showed me your gun, I already had a vision about it. Like right there. So just that whole exchange was enough for me. He was like, oh, wow. Okay, well, thanks for telling me, because I always wondered what happened to you and I never knew and la, la, la. And I was like, yeah, that was the reason why, and it is what it is. I have so many experiences like that. I have so many experiences where it's like, I'm very personal and private about my beliefs because I feel very strongly about them and they're not up for discussion, right? This is not about, oh, I'm telling you this for you to try and change my mind or for you to convert to what. It's not about that. It's like, this is what I believe. This is what I work with. This is what I do. It's not about whether you accept that or not. It's about whether you accept me because that's a part of me, and again, when you're dating, sometimes it's hard because, if you are opening yourself up to the possibility and the ideas of being able to know and see and be privy to things before their time, then you got to know when you dating, sometimes there's going to be some straight up off the bat. Your people might let you pussyfoot around a little bit. They might let you go on that date, have a little food, drink, whatever. But the minute you think that you want a little bit more than what the situation is going to give you, somebody is going to be like, hold on. And what do you think about this? And what do you think about that? And did you know they this is how they feel about this? Did you know this is what they doing? Oh, okay. Just wanted to let you know, because if you really feeling him, this is what you're going to be dealing with. You down for that? Like, it's going to be a lot of that. It's going to be an open conversation. And then you start to change the conversation that you have with your egun as well. You start to change it. Instead of being like, why am I by myself and nobody likes me? Instead of it being that, it turns into, okay, what else do I need to work on for myself in the meantime? And what kind of person do you think is going to be a good fit for me? Like, who do y'all think is going to, like, listen, we got to get back to the community being a part of these things, because when you start going out and striking out on your own, sometimes you're going to make a lot of mistakes. And that's why certain things are the protocol and the standard within certain communities, because there's a certain way of doing things. There's a certain way that things need to be addressed. There's a certain way that you need to carry yourself. There's a certain way that men, women, whoever is and get interested in you need to interact with you, engage with you, court you, treat you, right? All of these things vary based on who you dealing with. They vary based on your family. They vary based on your spirit guides. You might be raised up in one way, but you got a whole spiritual court that is expecting you to behave and carry yourself in this way. And, it's going to be all of these things. And I think it's interesting because, like I said, the reason why I wanted to talk about this is because, domestic violence is a serious issue. It's a really serious issue. And a lot of the times, a domestic violence situation, a lot of people always automatically think of a woman being beat up by her boyfriend or her husband or her partner. And it's more than that, right? It's a lot more than that. Somebody does not start off punching you in your face or calling you out your name. It starts off with a lot of other smaller behaviors. It starts off with a little a little teasing here, a little slight disrespect there, a little jab at your appearance or your personality or something that's near and dear to you. It starts off as these little things, and then it builds, and then by the time it builds all the way up to the levels where the shit is out of control, sometimes we will find ourselves in situations that feel very much out of control. But understand that if you are a person who believes that you have Egun, that you have spirits that walk with you and protect you, they will rise up when they get ready. So that's the other thing. Like, you gotta be responsible with yourself, but you also gotta understand that you got ancestral protection. And if you are in tune with them and you really want to grow and elevate and build with yourself above all, and give them the light and the love and the care that they need, they will protect you. Okay, because my ass has been in some crazy ass situations, okay? Some crazy situations that I know it was not me and my good common sense, because I didn't have any at the time, all right? Because I was full of myself and I was on some bullshit. But I know that there was some people in my line that was like, okay, you know what, child, you a little out of pocket right now, but we got you, okay? But you will hear about this when you get home. And, you are going to be on punishment for a while because you clearly out here wilding. You wilding right now, and you're going to have to be grounded, because what's wrong with you? Like, get comfortable with having that type of dialogue happen within your dating life. And I'm going to tell you right now, your whole shit is going to change up. How you feel about yourself, how you carry yourself, the types of conversations you entertain, the types of people you even think twice at looking at, Listen, let me tell you something. Like I said, I've had better sex at 16 than I have now at 34. And I'm all right with that. I'm okay with it. I know I got something good to go back to. But I know that in the meantime, it's not really my season for that. I got a lot of other things to do. And while I do miss partnership and intimacy and all those things, I'm building a different type of partnership and intimacy. And I have to respect that this is not the season for romance. This is the season for self-love, actualization, and a deeper connection with my dad. And whatever season you're in, I hope it's a fruitful one. But above all, I hope that you are being safe. And I hope that you are allowing yourself people that fortify you, that you're allowing yourself to go and be in places that are safe, that you are getting people that you care about involved in your dating process, so that way you stay safe, right? And that you constantly have people that you can talk to and refer to and vent to and strategize with on how to attain these things that you want to get to the next level of your life, because you're not going to get there by yourself. And I just want us to constantly keep that in the top of our minds, that when we walk with Spirit is going to let us Spirit is going to guide us in ways that we might not fully be prepared for, but we have to surrender to the experience and surrender to the process and trust that these spirits are older than us and they want to keep us going. And that if there is somebody that is coming into our path that is not for us, they will show us who and why that person is there, and they will show us how to safely move forward without altering our course or our destiny. And with that being said, this has been the 8th episode of the How to Be Magical podcast. Again, thank you so much for listening. This episode might have been a little bit all over the place, but this is really this whole episode literally is about dating while being on your spiritual path. And please let me know what you think about this episode. How have you been faring out here in the dating world? What are some things that you've noticed about yourself that have changed, since you started getting more serious about your path? And, what are some of the things that you're looking forward to? And how do you think that your spirituality helps your dating process? Let's talk about that. So again, follow me on Instagram, Soul Things BK. Follow me on Facebook, Soul Things Botanica. You can follow me on Twitter at XDecadent. I'm not really on there that much, but you can follow me on there anyway. And again, thank you for listening on Spotify, on Tidal, on Apple Music, on Chromecast, on Pocket Cast, on all the podcast platforms. Thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. And I hope that you have a wonderful and productive Pisces new moon. I hope these next few weeks are beneficial for you to discover some things about yourself, to reimagine your emotional narrative, and to help you, grow spiritually and get deeper in your partnership with Egun. And that being said, I'm out, y'all. Peace.